All right, Kevin back with you for another episode of the $1 Million Relationships Podcast. And today I'm here with Dean Josham. Dean, welcome. So awesome to have you on the show today.
Hey, Kevin, good to chat again. Thank you for inviting me on.
Oh, yes. And I'll tell you, man, I've been looking forward to this because, yeah, you and I, well, first of all, I want to just give a shout out to the folks over at the Quoted platform because that is Quoted is a platform that brings, well, I mean, it's a lot of news outlets and stuff. But there's also people like me who host podcasts that I end up finding some great podcast guests because of the Quoted platform. And that's how you and I connected. And I have had just a really great experience with those guys ever since I first found out about them, probably about a year ago and stuff. And you and I had already we met there. We had a conversation, get to know each other, and I was like, oh heck yeah, I definitely want to interview Dean for the podcast. And here we are. And what a great way to meet somebody, which is through somebody that you've already got a relationship with, that you've already got a history with, that that it's been a good experience. And so I just want to start off. I'll just ask a simple, easy question to start off. Dean, what do you do and who do you serve?
Yeah, we serve everybody. We teach personal safety, self-defense.
Okay.
It's a real kind of misunderstood topic because most people think they know what it is when we're in 2026 now. So we've had to evolve from potentially the old style of self-defense, which is kind of like martial arts based combatives, which I love all that stuff because I've got a big background in that. And we're sharing the education for protecting ourselves emotionally, physically, and psychologically as well. So it's protecting the whole self. So we provide workshops, education, and to really sort of let people understand what they can do, how they can look after themselves and other people around them, and create an impact as well. So it's a topic that I've got massive passion for. This is like my mission now. From all the stuff I've done before, this is where it's kind of led me to. So yeah, this is it. Trying to help
That's
other people
awesome.
now.
So how did you happen to get into doing this line of work?
Oh, that's a big question. So from a young boy, I experienced a lot of bullying, a lot of
Okay.
traumatic events, things like that, which kind of pushed me down to the kind of protective side of things. I got bigger, I started training, I got heavily involved in boxing, martial arts, things like that to protect myself. And then I kind of went down this road of wanting to protect other people. So I was in a fire brigade for a period of time. Then I looked at joining the military, and I joined the Marines over in the UK. So that's where it kind of led me. And my Marines career was cut short due to an unfortunate accident when I was on summer leave, and I got hit by a car and shattered my leg. And had
Oh,
about 4 or 5 years of in and out of hospital. I had MRSA, which is a super bug. Doctors telling me every day they're going to cut my leg off, all these kinds of things. So it was a massive life change from being very physical to suddenly having that stripped away from me. And from getting put back together and all the process of getting back to where I am now, it gave me time to really think about a lot of things. And I ended up going into the private security sector. Went out to Iraq in the early 2000s, over there providing close protection for Siemens engineers while they carried out the work within Iraq to keep their power plants running for the Iraq people. And then I sort of bounced between doing that, looking after CEOs. I was in Tunisia in the Arab Springs a couple of days after it all happened over there. We took the CEO of British Gas over there because he had to keep running a power plant there for the people. All the sort of CEOs have done bits and bobs, bouncing from there to kind of like the glam stuff, the Hollywood LA. So I've been really fortunate to look after people like Angelina Jolie, Brad Pitt and their kids, Russell Crowe and his family for probably about the last 16, 18 years, something like that. So I've bounced between a lot of different stuff, as well as doing stuff in the UK with local councils and local authorities and police forces. So I've been very lucky in the sense of I've done a lot of stuff that potentially I wouldn't have done if I'd still been in the military.
yeah.
So I always, thankful for how that's happened and people that have helped me on the way to do that. And it's kind of come full circle when we had all the lockdowns and, all that with COVID and how
Uh-huh.
that restricted a lot of things for everybody. And the bodyguarding I was doing, everything kind of changed because of travel. So it gave me time to pause and look at what we was doing with the self-defense. And I was kind of like doing it, dipping in and out. People asking me to do little bits. And so I kind of didn't really do it full time and wholeheartedly. So looking at everything, I thought this is where we need to be. I've helped families stay safe, certain people I've just mentioned. But I'm like, this education, we need to get it out to the masses because the impact it can have, the reality of what's going on as well. So it's very reality based, looking at statistics, understanding where dangers are for certain people, certain communities, things like that, to go, right, let's give people the best education we can. Let's always keep looking at it, keep analyzing it and making sure, we serve people and, we can give them the best that we've got. So with all that experience as well, I'm not just an instructor. I've got all this other stuff with security. So, I like personal safety because it's a much bigger lens to look through because there's other things that we need to consider. And for me, it's about the awareness, the prevention, the mindset, the understanding. And the last thing is the physical, because of the consequences, the aftermath, trauma, physical, psychological. So there's a lot to sort of unpack within that topic that, there's a lot of good instructors now coming up and they're understanding this. And I think within the industry, we're evolving, which is needed to be, because this has to be applicable whether you're, 11-year-old boy or girl, or you're an 84-year-old woman or man. So it's gotta be applicable to everybody, not just the people like me, size and ability, physical ability, where there's so many more levels to it.
Okay. Okay. So, so you have quite a background in this, and it sounds like, in 2020 when COVID happened, that ended up being a pivoting point for you, where you just kind of decided, you know what, I'm not going to focus on me doing the thing, me being the protector for other people. I'm just going to start training people how to protect themselves and people that they care about and stuff.
Yeah, definitely. That was the point where it gave me a chance to really assess everything. And I've always said, weirdly enough, many years ago, I said the bodyguarding stuff, I've been very lucky, had some great experiences and worked with some fantastic people and gone all over the world. But I did say when I got to 50, I wanted to stop doing it because it is a young man's game and you got to be real. And I'm 54 now.
Okay.
That's a young man's game. And I'm live. I've got family. I've got children. I want to be here for them. I've missed a lot from stuff I've done. So it worked out well in the sense of it gave us time to pause and go, right, what am I going to do? What's the next phase of life? And I'm so glad I'm in this phase because it feels right. It all makes sense from everything I've done. And it's nice to see what we're doing is really helping people.
Yeah. 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 So what is an example? And you can look at either side of this and maybe even share an example from both, from your time when you were being that protector, or from the time where now you're training others how to be that protector, either for themselves or for others that they care about. What is an example of a result that you have helped someone get, or just had an impact on their life that you are just incredibly proud of?
I think it's when we do sessions, we have feedback forms. So to understand where people are before and after, so we can actually gauge the impact of the session. We always do it anonymously so people can tell us the truth. And they
Uh-huh.
have the option there to give us any feedback. And like I always say, I'm here to learn as well. And I know a lot of stuff, but I'm always willing to listen to somebody else to question things because I think we always got to question things to make sure, we are where we need to be. And the feedback that we get, it's dispelling people's belief or perception of what they think self-defense is.
Okay.
And it's giving people, well, it's not giving them, it's helping them realize that, they can be empowered. They have got a lot of skill sets already that they can plug into to go around their daily lives and stay a lot safer. So it's that honest conversation, looking at statistics to go, this is what's really happening, the stuff that is being reported, and this is where we need to pay attention. The reports we look at, depending what you look at, between 60 and 90% of attackers are known to us. So yeah, there's danger, stranger, and we have to be aware of that. But it's a lot closer to home, unfortunately. And it's like, okay, that's a massive. I suppose so many. It's a different dynamic because if that person's known to you, the psychological side of that, it's not as easy as a physical response. And people share stories with us, and there's the complexity of this. There's so many things to consider and to bear in mind when personal safety manipulation. We talk about controlling and abusive relationships.
Yeah.
I share a story. I dated a lady not so long ago, probably maybe 8 or 9 years ago, and over a 2 year period, she manipulated me, and I didn't understand what a narcissist was, gaslighting, word salad, and all these fancy words. And over that 2 year period, I got to the point where I was suicidal because I was questioning my own reality. I actually rang up our health service here, which is the NHS, and I've got a crisis management phone line. So I rang them up. I needed help. I was, close to the edge. And I'm so glad I did because I got the correct and help and support there. So I'm all like, if you need support, look at it. Go and get some help. There's no shame in this. I didn't understand what had happened to me. And now I do. I'm so thankful that I've learned from that. And I share that with other people because domestic abuse, controlling relationships can affect anybody and everybody. And it's these open conversations that we need because I know a lot of people suffer in silence, self-blame, guilt, shame, all these other things. And it's, it's the perpetrators we need to address, not the survivors. And I think that's where we are now in 2026. We can have these open conversations, with yourself, with other people to go, we're talking about violence, and this is against the body, but also the psychological mind. Because for me personally, that was more damaging than any physical attack I've ever been in. Wow, it pushed me to the brink of taking my own life, which is crazy to say, but that's where I was at.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Well, and when you shared with me before, when we spoke the first time, that it's such a high percentage of this is done by people that are already known to us, and I was just that blew me away. That I was just like, wow, and because I guess I would have thought it would have been strangers, and so. And I can see, depending on the situation, yeah, the psychological impact that is going to have on somebody,
Yeah,
and
massively. And also, I think depending on lifestyle, so there's so many different variables to it, depending on the lifestyle, how we live, habits, things like that, to go where potentially might need to pay more attention to. But as I know you're a family man and I'm a family man, I'm very wary for our children and grandchildren and nephews and nieces that we have to predatorial behavior against our children, and that's normally in a circle of trust, and that's a difficult one because it's normally somebody known to the child because they have to get access there. So I look at things very differently than I did probably 10, 15 years ago because I understand the statistics. So it's to look at a wider lens, not, to look out for other people, because I think it's so important. If we can play our role and create a safer environment around us, that's going to resonate and that's going to help everybody else. So it's kind of like I feel a care of duty towards other people around me.
yeah, yeah,
And I think we should all should have that, because if everyone can play their part and do a little bit or a lot, then that's going to have a massive impact. And something I always think about, what I learned, I did some trauma training, psychological trauma, and generational trauma is passed on. Now, I've read a book called The Body Keeps Count, and they say for women, potentially, that's at a cellular level, that's 3 generations. So when I learned this and things about myself, I'm looking at myself going, have I passed any of my traumas onto my kids? What was I like when I was young? Because guarantee I'd probably traumatized my mum, my father, with the things I was involved in, because that was just how I was when I was younger. I didn't understand myself. So, there's a lot of things to consider. But I think once you look at it, it dispels a lot of confusion and gives people, it helps people empower themselves to go, we have a lot of things we can do and a lot of things to realize where we can stay safe and obviously impact others as well.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, okay, so now that we've got a little bit of context set here. And I'm sure at this point, there's going to be some folks listening to this that are like, wow, you know what? Man, I might like to have a conversation with Dean or somebody on his team, or maybe they're thinking of somebody else they know that, like, man, I need to let them know about Dean and what these guys are doing and stuff. And we'll make sure that, we got you covered on that. But I want to switch gears just a little bit here. And I want to like start having a conversation around relationships here too. And so I'll start off. So I'm just going to ask you, Dean, have you ever met or been introduced to a person or persons who completely changed the course of your life or your business, so much so that much of what you have today would not be possible if not for this person or persons? And I'm just really excited to hear your story and your experience around this topic of relationships.
I'm smiling because that's one of those questions where I'm like, one person. It's a really difficult one because there's so many people on the journey that I would thank, and also people that I've learned lessons from, and they might not have been nice people, but I've learned from them, and I kind of reflect now, looking at the experiences that I had. There's a lot of lessons in there. For me, it's got to be family, because they've always been. I don't have a big family, but they've always been supportive through thick and thin, through the dark days. They've always had my back, and I'm fortunate because I've got a good close family. So yeah, my family is key. My partner is key, because on that element, I came out of that abusive relationship and I was shut down. So she was very patient with me. She bared with me, and I'm glad she did, because of I've got a great relationship with her as well. Our kids, our families. So yeah, for me, family, because that's so important. I would say I've got some really good close friends as well that have been there through the journey, and one of them sort of part with him on his journey with his business, his entrepreneurial business, which I'm so excited for, and I'm so glad I can help him, because I want him to succeed, because he's such a great guy and he's got a lovely family. So yeah, I think if you haven't, if so, I know some people don't have a great family for many reasons. If you've got good friends, good key people around you that support you, encourage you all the time. I have bad days like we all do, and you question that, not so long ago I had a bad day and I was questioning everything I'm doing. And I think that's part of the process, because if you want to serve and do the best you can for others, I'm always questioning it, because I want to, make sure I deliver the best for other people. So yeah, good close friends. If you haven't got, close family, I think it's so important, that support and encouragement.
Yeah, yeah. So what is an example of a situation where you personally, Dean, got to make a really substantial impact, and maybe in the moment, maybe it even surprised you a little bit. You were just like, wow, look at what just happened there. But you also know that would have not been possible if not for your relationship with whoever that might have been, somebody in your family, your wife, your kids. What's an example of something like that, Dean?
Ooh, I think looking at a lens, so with all the bodyguard and security stuff, I've always put myself on the other person. So, I've sat around with tribe leaders, not spoke languages, but I've always looked through somebody else's lens, because if I can understand that person in front of me, then maybe I can help them. Maybe I can reach them in a way that resonates with them. So I'm always sort of, whoever I'm engaging with, whether that's with a train, whether it's business, entrepreneurship, and I'm trying to look at it through their lens to go, okay, how can I help? How can I give value to that person? I
That's a
think I
big
think
thing.
yeah, I think my friend who's on his own entrepreneurial trip, um, because he's ex-military, and I've
Okay.
seen him evolve. I
Uh-huh.
knew him 25 years ago, and he's like my brother. And I've seen him evolve from where he was to where he is now, and where he's going. And just I get goosebumps because I just to be part of that and see him evolve is great. And I've been able to help him, and I'll still continue to help him. We speak regularly because we talk about business and what he's going through, and he's scaling and all this stuff. So it's like that support there, and I'm more than happy to speak to him. I think that has got to be where at a time I've been able to help. And and like I always keep saying to him, just look behind you, because what you've done so far is amazing in my eyes. And I don't think he realizes that, because he's very humble and he's just, moving forward like we're all trying to move. And we don't take time to stop and reflect back. And I think as his friend, I can say, just remember where this journey's been taking you and what you've endured and how you've overcome that and how you're still moving it all forward.
Yeah. And you are so right that, especially as entrepreneurs, we set goals and we've just got this vision of where we're wanting to go. And a lot of times we don't slow down enough to just really celebrate those wins, or to, like you said, look back and realize, like, wow, look how far we've come. Because like every time we win, we're like, okay, well, on to the next thing,
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. And I don't think you realize how much you've achieved, because you're always, pushing and want to do more, want to do more. And for me as well, it's people. So if someone said to me, do you want another 10 million pounds, or do you want better relationships? I'm like, how much money do you need? Reality is, like, this is about people, creating them relationships, longevity, doing the right thing, because we've all probably come across people that don't have morals or values, and that's short-lived. And for me, I want to build trusting relationships, because that's more beneficial to everybody, and I believe you can make a bigger impact. So I'm a big one for talking. It's not sell, 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 because if you want to buy something, or you want to train with us, or want to access us, it's got to be right for you. I'm not going to try and trick you into buying something. If it's not right, I'm fine. We'd speak to people, and some people, it's not the right time for them. They don't have the investment, or, all sorts of things. So I'm okay with that. When you're ready, you're ready. I don't want to, I have to look at myself in the mirror, and I don't want to feel like I've tricked somebody with a slick sales process or something. And I know, you have to make a profit, obviously, but for me, it's something a bit bigger than just money. It's people. Yeah. And that's where I think sometimes business can get a bit too focused on the figures and the profit, rather than actually, what about the people? What about the people we're working with? What about your staff? What about the impact, personally, professionally? I think it's the bigger thing there for me.
Yeah. Amen. Absolutely. And the thing is when we focus on the people, when we focus on relationships, when we focus on just showing up and just, being of service, so that we can make our biggest impact, and it's impact that leads to revenue. And of course, the bigger impact we make, the more revenue that gets created. That's just a natural, organic byproduct of impact.
Yeah.
And that's the beautiful thing about that, is when we focus on other people and just being of service, using our God-given gifts to be of service, the revenue it comes, because people just want to be a part of what we're doing, because they can see that we genuinely care about them.
Yeah, profit's not a bad word, because you have to pay bills and cover costs and everything like that. So, but if you're adding, for me, it's value. Like I always say, when I train, it's definitely not about me. Yeah, I share my story and I've been very fortunate, but I'm like, this isn't about me. But if it makes people listen a bit more, because of my background, the bodyguarding, all that fancy stuff and all the sort of hostile stuff, I talk about it more, because if that helps that person listen to how we're trying to help and educate, that's a positive impact. So it's like, it's a transfer of knowledge. I've got the story, I've done this, great, oh, lovely, fantastic. Right, transfer that knowledge, help the other people that haven't had my experiences, haven't had my background, whatever, to take that knowledge, so they empower themselves with it.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, for anybody that may be listening to this and kind of just thinking to themselves, man, you know what? And I really appreciated some of what Dean has shared here. And maybe it's got them thinking that, like, man, I'd really appreciate being able to talk with him or somebody on his team, or maybe I know somebody else. Is there a website, any resources we can share with folks, Dean?
Yeah. Streetwisedefense.com, but it's the
Okay.
British way to spell defense.
Okay.
We've got
DEFENCE.
Yeah, that's the
Okay.
one. And you'll see us because me and my partner's on there, and we've got a Facebook page, Instagram. I'm on
Okay.
LinkedIn. I think if you just did a Google search, you'll find us. You'll come
And
across
I'll make
us.
sure
So
we include your links with the show
yeah,
notes too and stuff to make it nice and easy for folks. So
thank you. But yeah,
yeah.
I'm more than happy to speak to people because I think we've got a lot of work to do to kind of re-educate people about personal safety in
Yeah.
a positive way. Like we've sort of talked there, it's a big topic. So yeah, more than happy to help anybody or have a chat.
Yeah. Is there any last thing that you feel led to share, Dean, before we call it a wrap?
I'm looking a sense of I've still got contacts with what I used to do. So we do I do sit on a board of advisors, experts within the security sector as well. So I'm still kind of plugged into that. If that can help anybody, because I know looking after CEOs, very famous people, security is a concern, and in today it's kind of there's a lot going on, isn't there? So it's nice to be able to step back in there if I need that, or if that helps anybody or is of service as well. So it's kind of like I haven't fully stepped away from that, but I'm definitely not as active personally as I used to be. So that's something we can help with as well. But I appreciate anybody listening to this, and I appreciate you, Kevin. It's nice that we sort of got to talk before, and
Yeah.
we've reached out to each other, and you've invited me on. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. You're so welcome. I appreciate you taking the time to have this conversation, Dean, and I'm excited to get this out there and share it with folks. So thank you so much. And for those of you listening, yeah, if you want to get in touch with Dean, we'll make sure that we include the website link and his all his other links they'll be right here with the podcast and stuff. So once again, Dean, thanks so much, man. Really appreciate you.
Thanks, Kevin. Thank you.